Good evening, my viewers. This is George Ondek with the latest edition of the George Ondek Show. Tonight I have one of my Slice of Life shows with me. I have from Verplank Captain Johnny Matthews. How are you tonight, John?
Very well, George. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good. And tonight we'll be talking about boating, fishing, and Verplank.
Great.
You're from the town of Verplank, aren't you, Captain John?
I am. The little hamlet of Verplank.
How long have you lived there?
At least 45 years.
Right. I just hear some famous celebrities lived there in the past.
Yeah, we had Mel Gibson grew up down around.
Mel Gibson?
Yes, he did.
Did members of your family know him or something?
I believe that my brother David went to school with Mel, and my cousin William and the Vallettos went to school with Mr. Gibson there, Mr. Mel Gibson.
And of course, the lady who's on WHUD in the morning, Miss Morbido. Did you know her?
Yes, I did. Sure.
Very fine show she does every day on WHUD
Yes, she does.
with
Yes, she
Mike and Casey, right? Casey Morbido.
Correct.
And you know the Capicatis?
I know the Capicatis very well.
Yeah, good people.
Great people.
And how about that great pizza place in town, the Paradise
The
Restaurant?
Margiatas.
Margiatas.
A lot of great people come from Verplank.
But living in Verplank and living near the river, is that what got you interested in fishing and boating?
I believe so, yeah, because we were born and raised on the end of Broadway, and both houses, my grandfather's house and our house, they abutted the Hudson River. So yeah, it was just a natural thing, to get in a boat and do our thing.
Did I hear your father was quite a fisherman too?
My uncle.
Your uncle?
My uncle. Uncle Tucker, he's well known.
Now this was on the Hudson River.
On the Hudson.
My dad worked for the railroad and probably bought fish from him on a Friday because I lived in Yonkers. He worked at the Croton Harmon Yard. And man, he used to bring some delicious fish home, and they were big on a Friday night whenever he got paid.
Yeah, they used to, in May, they would fish for shad roe. That was a big thing.
Right.
And in June was sturgeon.
Sturgeon.
The big prehistoric fish, Atlantic sturgeon that comes up the Hudson River to spawn its eggs.
Yeah, how big do those sturgeons
get? They get huge. Actually, I brought a picture along with...
Can they hone in on that picture of the sturgeon there? What's the biggest one you ever caught, or what's the biggest one you heard of in the Hudson River, John?
They get up to about 350 pounds.
Get out of here!
Oh yeah, they're huge.
Really?
And, sure, and they love to swim the channels of the Hudson River.
Really?
The deepest sections of the waters.
Wow. So you got into fishing at a young age then?
Very young age,
Your uncle taught you, or your father?
My uncle, my brother, and even the family, my dad, were all, back in the day during, the early 30s, they fished through the ice when the Hudson River froze,
I remember one time when I was very little that the oil barges were stuck out there in the Hudson. They had to send icebreakers to get the oil barges through.
Correct.
Or something.
Years ago, that's what they did.
And how about this winter we just had, John?
Beautiful. We could use a few
I
more
just
of those.
heard on Channel 12 News, the weatherman said that this was the second warmest winter in history. In the last 117 years in this area. Isn't that amazing?
That's great. Like I said, the snow shovels could be put away.
So do you have your boat in the water already?
I should be in around 2 or 3 days.
And what kind of boat do you have, Captain John?
Wait
a second. Why are you known as Captain Johnny?
Because I went to Fort Schuyler Maritime College in the Bronx, and
Really?
I obtained my captain's license down there. I became a merchant marine officer.
Really?
That's correct. And like I said, from early on, I did a lot of commercial fishing with my Uncle Tucker, with my brother, striped bass, when it was legal to do. There's a moratorium on it. Today, you're not allowed to do it. But back in the day, it was allowed. And so it's just a certain love for the water. You have to have it, It's a natural high, the water.
We're not doing a plug here for a major phone company, but that picture, what did you tell me it was picked up by? AT&T or something?
That was an AT&T commercial in Japan back in the 70s.
Why? Because it was such a big fish that was caught?
Yeah, it was just the whole aspect of the picture. You know, it was a prehistoric animal, and they elected to have my uncle, to have this picture with this fish, and it would be an AT&T commercial back in the late '70s.
Now you go fishing, commercial fishing, right?
No more, no commercial.
more?
I charter. I take people out for
you
hire
right,
to go
right,
fishing
okay.
for the day.
Okay,
Right,
you
correct.
you just take them out for the day.
Yeah.
Okay, but where do you go? Where are some of the places you've been in your charter boats and your fishing boats?
I fish all of the Hudson River and the Long Island Sound.
Wow. But have you been ever up to Alaska?
Not to Alaska.
Not to.
No.
How about Cape Cod?
I've been to Cape Cod.
Isn't it beautiful up there in New England?
Gorgeous.
I like Old Saybrook, Connecticut there along the water, and I like the Rhode Island, Block Island. Have you been to Block Island?
I've been to Block Island Sound. I've been to Martha's Vineyard.
What is it like to be out there in a storm?
Well, here's the thing. Storms are okay. Thunder and lightning, the thunder's okay. Lightning storms you got to be careful because, you're out of the water. You're at a higher elevation, and lightning would like to strike the surface.
How many years have you been a captain of a ship now?
About
Captain
11
Johnny?
years now, 11 years.
Johnny, what do you think happened in Italy with that captain in the ship, that the ship ran aground on a reef with all the modern sonar, radar, GPS, and everything else there is going today with boats or ships?
It's easy for me to say, a certain hindsight's 20/20.
Hindsight.
But today, with technology, maybe I really don't know what happened,
Because we hear about the Titanic, and we thought that could never happen again in this modern age. And to see a ship go aground and on a reef and over on its side, and I hear the ship cost something like $1 billion.
Yeah.
That's some loss for the company if they can't refloat it.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
And, tragedies happen. That's life. And the equipment today is only as good as the individual who does the input to the equipment. So did they, who knows what really happened that day?
Is it profitable to go out fishing, commercial fishing?
It's more of a labor of love.
Really, you enjoy
I would
it?
have to say, yeah. First of all, you wouldn't be able to take a mortgage and pay your mortgage, I can tell you that.
Right.
But can you pay for your fuel and some docking fees and such? Yes.
And you get to enjoy the ocean, the
And you
sea.
get to meet a different variety of people, personalities.
Do you like all the waterfowl along the Hudson? The seagulls, the Canadian geese, and the ducks and all that? Aren't they a beautiful part of the nature of the Hudson River?
They truly are, They truly
and you would
are.
you would do nothing to disturb that ecological basis or whatever you call it.
No, it's all a part of, you get out there early in the morning, the seagulls are working, and they're working the bait fish on top of the water, because they all play a big part.
They naturally clean up the ocean too, right? Not the ocean, the river.
They clean up
the
ocean.
Tell us a little bit about the Hudson River. You must know a lot about that, Captain
Well, the Hudson River is a very majestic river. It's
where does it go from? Like way up in the Adirondacks?
Yeah, it takes you all the way up to the locks, and it goes all the way up.
What's the locks? What's the locks?
There's different locks.
Windsor locks?
No, it's the locks where you take different elevations to get up to the different Lake Ontario, Lake Champlain, and they have to flood the lock to get you up to another elevation to maneuver from there, and you hit the series of locks till it takes you all the way up to the Great Lakes.
One of my fine things when I was a boy was crabbing in the Hudson.
Great place.
I used to do that off the city pier in Yonkers, and would get bushel bags full of them, and would use chicken guts in those days. How do you catch the crabs out in the water there?
Well, today with the
you got big nets, or
commercially, there's a few guys like Frankie Bottas. He still does his commercial crabbing.
Right.
And he loves it. Another thing, labor love. It costs him more in gas to get out there than it was to sell a few crab, But today they want you to use anything that's natural to the Hudson River. So in other words, they don't want you using chicken because it's not a natural fish or to the Hudson River. So they want you to use sunfish, perch, anything that's a natural to the river.
So did I ask you what was the biggest fish you ever caught? And how do you reel in a real big fish
Yeah,
like
well,
that?
I've caught in the Hudson River when they're coming up, like within the next month, so April, they come up to spawn. And when they come up to spawn, they're loaded with eggs. And people have caught, and I've caught them 40 pounds, but they have caught and released, because a lot of them you release because they are spawning. So up to 60-pound striped bass.
I heard last year one of the towns across the river, they 110-pound sturgeon landed up on a land. Yeah, so we get some big fish in the Hudson.
Well, that picture of that one with Tucker on, that was about 312, 315-pound fish there.
Is it true there's hundreds of species of fish in the Hudson River?
You know, I don't know
You
about
don't know.
hundreds, but there is an awful lot of species,
Right.
from bay anchovies to hog chokers, which is a small
What's
little
a hog
fluke.
choker?
It's a small
I'm
little,
only a
like
neophyte,
like
I
a
don't know.
flounder. It's like a fluke.
Yeah.
It's in that category of fish. There's Tommy cods. There's
There's all
striped bass,
different kinds.
perch. There's
What is
many
it like to
species.
go out on a fishing expedition? Is it 1 day long? Is it
Well,
3 days long?
Yeah, it
5
depends.
days?
No, I take my my charter boat and I take people out for a 6-hour
Cruise like.
7 hour fishing charter.
Right.
And what I'll do is I'll mark fish. I'll anchor up in the Hudson River. You anchor. I anchor up. I put fresh bunker or herring, whatever's available. And
I used to love herring.
and
boy.
that's what we use because that's
You
what
like
they eat.
herring?
I do, yes. And
Cats love herring too.
They all
you
do.
know.
but that's what we do.
So you've been doing that quite a long time.
Yeah, pretty much my whole life.
Where do you dock your boats? Do you have more than one boat?
I have
by
a
the way?
couple of boats.
Wow, a couple,
Well,
huh?
no, I just have two right now. One's a 16-foot Nautic. It's a work boat, and I use that boat. I have a small string of lobster pots in the Long Island Sound. I use that to pull my
Wow.
lobster pots.
You get lobster tails there?
I get everything down there. Claws
Tell me
and
something.
tails.
Is lobster tail part of a lobster, or is I don't know. I'm not an expert on this.
It's part of the whole lobster.
So
You
they
get
cut off the tail?
claws. Well, they don't cut them off. I mean, if you want a tail, if you're in the restaurant, they cut them.
Because the other part seems like so much work to get the meat. You know,
it's
if it's a
okay,
small
yeah.
one.
You want the claws and the tail. That's
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah, they're
the
very
good meat,
tasty.
the good meat, the sweet meat.
So as I was saying, when you go out, it's a 6 or 7 hour cruise when you go out.
It's 6 hours. It's
So you
sufficient.
don't stay out overnight.
Well,
and
if
all
the
that.
guys want to go out, a lot of my charters are at night. A lot of my
Yeah,
charters
yeah,
are at
yeah,
night.
yeah.
Most of the bigger fish are nocturnal, so they
Okay.
will feed and they will make
Do
the move. at night.
fish sleep at night?
I don't think they really sleep.
They never sleep.
They get lethargic,
Uh-huh.
And
Now people are saying new Tappan Zee bridge is going up. That doesn't upset the Hudson River at all,
well,
does
it could
or
very
does
well. It could very well. I didn't do any environmental studies on it, but again, the Hudson River is a big spawning ground for the striped bass, for the Atlantic sturgeon, for the herring. And
Oh, and what's this license you have here?
that's my
Captain John?
That's my captain's license there.
Oh,
That's,
where do you get a captain's license
Well,
from?
I guess where I had to get mine was Fort Schuyler Maritime College in the Bronx, and it was for me a very tough license to get.
Yeah. Now you see a book there. Captain John Vargo.
Yeah, Johnny Vargo, great man.
That's
Good
a
man.
great boating magazine,
Boating on
and
the Hudson.
that's given out for free at all the yacht clubs
Yeah,
along the Hudson.
He
from
puts a
what
lot
I
of
hear.
time into that
Yeah, he
magazine.
does a
right
great
there.
job
He's
on
a good,
that
He's a good man.
magazine.
He loves to fish too.
Yeah. Does
Yeah.
he have a boat or two?
He does. He does. He loves his fishing, and he loves to write articles. He's a very talented man when it comes to writing, and he's a good guy, Johnny. Good friend of
Captain
mine.
Johnny, when my wife was feeling a little bit better, she's not feeling too good lately. We used to take a lot of trips up to Cape Cod, Block Island, Rhode Island, and man, that New England clam chowder
The best, right?
and clam cakes or
Crab cake.
crab cakes, delicious.
Maryland crab cakes.
boy.
They're delicious.
Maryland, I haven't been down that way. Only when we went to Washington D.C. once. Fishing is quite a thing, right? You really enjoy that.
Yeah, like I said, it's a labor of love. We have a lady who Tommy Adams' mother, who We get the crabs. See, I could never make crab cakes because I'd be eating them as I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
cleaning the crab. We give them to her. She cleans them up, and then she makes
Wow.
crab cakes. And because she don't eat the crabs, see?
Wow.
And homemade crab
And,
cakes.
and there's a lot of dock and dine restaurants along the water, so after 4 or 5 hours, if you get hungry, you can pull in with a boat and
and get a good dinner.
yeah.
You know,
It's nothing like fresh seafood too, right?
Oh, it's the best. You know, it's
Yeah.
very healthy for you. It's good. You know.
So you sail from what, like now to October or November is the prime
Yeah, I'll
time?
stay here till maybe the end of May. I'll stay here. When I say here, that would be the Hudson River. I'll stay here to the end of May, and I'll try to stay with the fish, you know, because they're going to head up north until they get to fresh water and spawn their eggs, and then they'll come back out and head for the Long Island Sound. So then I'll pick them up again around June, Father's Day, in the Long Island Sound, and I'll stay there till November. Because you catch some nice fish in November, too.
How do you like going out of the one in Mamaroneck where you dock your
Oh,
boat?
Harbor Island,
Somebody
love it.
told me that a person named Donald Trump used to dock his boat there, and it's about a half a city block long or
Yep,
something.
Donald Trump and the
What's-
other guy, the big golfer. Who's the golfer there? Tiger Woods.
Really?
Yes, he keeps his
Oh, I
boat
never
down
knew
there.
Tiger had a boat
Yeah,
there. Pretty
yeah,
big, huh?
yeah,
How many footer would it be?
I don't know. I think it's like maybe about 115, 20 footer, you know? And he's got his own captain, his own personalized
That's
captain.
about 1/3 the size of Yankee Stadium. That's pretty big, you know.
Nice ship, nice ship.
Were you ever on one of them ships, boats like
Yeah,
that?
big boat. We took
must
one.
be fancy, right?
Beautiful. We took one from the Verrazano Narrows to Bermuda.
I like Long Island Sound too. We go down there to a restaurant in Rye, right on the water, and it's beautiful there. I won't give a plug to what it is, but
Gotcha,
it's right
yeah.
next to Playland and
Yeah,
beautiful to just sit, watch the boats going by, the sailboats, and a nice day out there, you know.
Yeah, it's great. The atmosphere.
Right.
It's
It's
relaxing.
so relaxed,
You know?
right.
You just
It's
kinda,
good for relaxing
mellow
person's nerves, getting
Yeah,
mellow there,
you know,
having a nice day, you know.
You know, it's you get the smell, the salt there. You
man.
know, it's just a beautiful
That's
thing.
why people like New England so much. And you know, people don't realize it. We have that beauty right here in the Hudson
Right
River.
in our backyard.
People don't go down to the water. They don't go down to China Pier in Peekskill and look at that Bear Mountain Bridge and what a beautiful sight that is. I go with my wife quite often, maybe an hour every day, John, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
It
you know,
is.
and the
And
town
if you close your eyes, you can imagine you're at Cape Cod or in the Isle of Capri or something
Hey.
like that.
and Verplank, the steamboat dock, they just
Yes.
redid the whole thing. They did a beautiful job.
did, huh?
And you can hang out, you can fish, you can throw a few crab nets.
Wow.
You can read the paper with a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It's just I mean, you know, within
And I heard
a rock throwing distance
I heard
away.
another nice spot in Peekskill on the water is the Cove or something, John Walsh Boulevard. I think there's some boats docked there. And
I think they have a
I
marina
think
up
it's a
there, right?
restaurant or
Yeah, the
something.
restaurant
too.
up there.
But they call it the Cove, and that's beautiful there.
There's some very nice areas.
People don't realize the beauty we have living here, and they don't have to drive 300 miles to Cape Cod, right?
You're right.
Right.
You know, our bridges, the Bear Mountain Bridge, the
Oh.
Tappan Zee Bridge, at night when you're out on the water, they're
Right.
all lit up. They're gorgeous.
And how about that Bear Mountain Bridge? A guy named Harriman built it. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
And not Averell Harriman, the government, but some rich millionaire. And you know what that bridge only cost, John?
I couldn't imagine.
About $25 million. And today they want to rebuild that Tappan Zee Bridge. Starting price is $5 billion.
It's gonna be
$5 billion with a B. So, but it should do good. It should do good for transportation.
well,
over
I
the
guess,
Hudson.
yeah. I mean, you know, it has to be done.
Now,
Apparently, they're
something
saying it has
on
to be
the
done.
water I must ask you is about boat safety. I might go out with you this summer
I
on,
hope
on
you
a
do go out
fishing
with me.
cruise.
know?
Do I have a commitment there? I'd love
Yes,
to go.
you have
I've
a
never
commitment.
been
We're
out.
committing right
I've
now.
flown a plane on this show, but I haven't been out on a boat
Well, I'll
yet.
let you skip the boat too. How's that?
What do you mean skip the
That
boat?
means you're going to be in charge of the helm. You're in
I
charge of the
skipped
helm.
the plane that I was on with a guy named Bob Kardash, a friend of mine. He owns 2 Cessnas, and I think he was doing the controls, but he had me behind the wheel, and I was driving that plane
We'll get you
from
out there.
from all the ways up Newburgh down to Staten Island and back. And at that time, the World Trade Center was standing, and we flew within a couple of 100 feet of
How'd
it.
you like that?
Beautiful,
I like that.
beautiful.
So I'll be the first mate, and you could be the skipper.
Oh, will I be on deck?
He'll be on deck.
You're not going to make fun of my name now.
Never, never.
I'd rather be just on board, but I don't want to be on the poop deck or below deck. I've been getting that all my life, Johnny.
I hear you. That's what they say, George Ondek, right?
And I like your first name, Captain Johnny. You don't know this, but I have two brothers. One was named Pete, and the other was Johnny. So you
great.
seem like a younger brother to me.
There you go.
And we're all friends from a few years back. We have coffee together once in a while.
Yeah, we do, right?
And it's good to discuss boating, fishing, and Old Verplank. What do you want to say more about Old Verplank, too? What a beautiful town it was to grow up in.
For growing up, it was a fabulous place to grow up. You know, we never locked the door. When my mother cooked, I could bring friends. It didn't matter. There was always enough food.
How people were together,
Yeah,
right?
it was more, it was so all family. It was more family.
How everybody knew everybody. Now you
yeah.
live in a condominium association like I live in, and you say hello and goodbye to your neighbors, but you're not really friends like we were in the old. When we were in the block, I lived on Yonkers, on Buena Vista Avenue, overlooking the Hudson. That's why I always loved the Hudson. And my dad worked for the railroad, so I have a fond memories of the railroad and the Hudson River and fishing and crabbing. Great. I used to go with my Uncle Johnny crabbing. What do you think of that?
I like that. I like that.
Johnny on deck.
You know.
So it's a good thing I wasn't in the Navy, right, John?
That's right.
I would have been shell-shocked.
All
hands on deck.
All hands on deck.
And do you get a lot of Johnny Mathis?
Yeah, you know, people, the singer Johnny Mathis, now, you know.
Yeah, well, I know he's a different color.
Yeah,
than you,
yeah.
But
and
there's
another
thing. I talked to you a lot about sports, and you had me conned for a while.
Yeah, I
the
did,
Green
right?
Bay Packers, there's a guy
Clay
named
Matthews.
You told me he was cousin.
Clay Matthews.
He looks a lot like you with the long hair and all that.
Right. That's Clay. I was a big Green Bay fan my whole life, and it was just ironic that this guy appears and his name is Clay Matthews, and he spells it the same way.
Wow.
So the big joke was, yeah, that's my cousin.
Now, John, my wife won't even go across the river from Ossining on the ferry to the other side. She's afraid of the water.
Some people
now,
are.
when I go out with you, do we have life jackets
on?
Yeah,
of course.
Okay.
Safety first.
And what do you think about safety on the Hudson?
Listen, it's a very essential aspect to any type of boating.
Should women and mothers and fathers always have life jackets on their children when they take them?
Always, because first of all, it's the law. It's the law.
Right.
And you know what? It saves lives.
Yes.
Nobody wants to be out there treading water, hoping for somebody to come rescue. With the life preservers. Hopefully that would never happen, but they need to be readily accessible.
I must tell you one thing we did up at Cape Cod. We went out on the whale watching expeditions, and I think we saw one whale dive over another boat in front of us. And man, that's scary. Imagine if he would ever landed on the.
Yeah, they're good though.
Did that happen, or did I imagine that?
No, I probably did. They're pretty agile though.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
They were beautiful to see.
They're showpieces too. They know people are watching them. And,
really?
Oh yeah, sure they do. They like to put a little display on out there in the water. The dolphins will do that.
Another place you told me you liked, City Island.
Love City Island.
Yeah, in the Bronx in the old days, that was a great place to go for seafood. The Lobster Box was way out at the end, Anna's Harbor Inn, and where'd you like to go for your bait and stuff?
Yeah, I go to Jack's Bait and Tackle. A good friend of mine, John, down there, and he's got everything, boy. I mean... He's open early. See, they're open 4 o'clock in the morning. So, I'm down there ready for a charter. I got to go get my bait early and have fresh bait.
Where do you go and get all the bait and all that?
I go to City Island many
City
mornings.
Island.
Way before. So my day starts sometimes 2, 3 in the morning.
So
driving.
That's a long day.
Yeah, it's a 16, 18-hour day.
But you enjoy taking people out in the boat. It's a day out, right? It's an outing.
It's a great day out.
You know what I used to like too with boats? The Hudson River Day Line. I don't know if you remember
that. I remember
that. It docked at Yonkers, came up to Bear Mountain, then Indian Point, and then Poughkeepsie. Yeah. We'd stop at Indian Point and come back. Yeah. But that was a beautiful ride. And we had a ferry from Yonkers that used to go across to I forgot the name of the town, but it was a little town. It was only a quarter in them days, too. Imagine that.
There's a big place down. You ever been to Liberty Landing?
Liberty Landing?
Yes,
No.
it's down by the Statue of Liberty.
Oh yes,
Beautiful
yes.
spot. You talk about some dining.
My wife and I went there when you could go up into the Torch.
Yeah.
I don't think they allow
No,
that
she's closed
anymore.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. And we went to Washington D.C. when you were allowed to go up in all them monuments, and now
right.
it's all restricted.
Yeah, it's all restricted today, you know.
Oh, and speaking of that, you're boating on the Hudson or you're boating anywhere. Is there a lot of regulations, and do you get stopped a lot by
There's a lot of
Border Patrol?
Oh yeah, you know, since 9/11, they're very serious out there, and
Really?
they will pull you over, they will board you, they will make sure you have all the essential part of your day, such as life preservers, flares. You know, they'll go over you with a fine-tooth comb.
Well, actually, that's good because that's for
great.
your safety.
That's
right?
great. You know.
And you think they've got Indian Point covered pretty
Yes,
well
they
too,
do.
out on
Yes,
the water.
they do.
Yeah, I would imagine.
You encroach anywhere near Indian Point, and they will.
But
be.
we don't want to get on to that. No. We want to.
They're
talk
doing a
about,
great job.
We
though.
want to talk about the beautiful Hudson River, how majestic it is,
Beautiful.
right? Henry Hudson. Imagine when he sailed up it in what was that, 1619 or something?
Yeah.
Wow, that must have been something.
And he sailed up
how
in the
big
half
was
moon, didn't he? The half
yeah,
moon.
the half moon. How big was that boat about?
Oh, I don't know.
How about the boat
have a
that?
replica down
how
there.
about the boat that Columbus and his friends, Nina Pinta and Santa Maria?
Yeah.
That must have been something to come to a new world.
Oof. And they didn't realize that they didn't know the world was round back then. Right?
Is it round?
Yes, it is. It's 360
Is it going to be
degrees.
around for a long time still?
I hope so, right?
People were trying to scare us the other day, was saying you had to wear tin foil that the solar flares were going to hit you. And I tell them, and Johnny will sell you the Brooklyn Bridge too.
Right.
If that's the biggest worry you got, or that the Earth is going to come to end in December 20th. The guy who was promoting that, his son was selling bomb shelters where people were going underground and he having to pay him $40,000. So people got to be careful what they listen to on the internet.
Yeah.
But John,
Absolutely.
Captain John, I cannot believe it. Do you believe a half hour has flown by?
Is it over already?
Or sailed by? This show is just about over. Do you have anything in closing to say to my vast audience and how they can contact you if they want to learn more about boating or fishing?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me here. This was great, and I really, truly appreciate it. And I want, because I didn't know what you really did, and so now I got the concept behind what you truly do, and
so. But what is a contact number somebody can reach you at?
I'm gonna get a contact number here because I have my business phone here.
Well, I don't want your business phone now. I just want a phone.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a contact.
Let's
I'm
skip
sorry,
it.
contact number, and here's a contact number if anybody wants to get in touch with me. It'll be 914
Yes.
257 1745.
Just to ask you about
any
boating
type
or
of boating
fishing
question,
or
correct.
verplank,
Or
because I
verplank.
really can't do anything commercial on this show. So
I understand.
Johnny,
I understand.
Captain Johnny, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Thanks for
and
having me.
in
I
full
appreciate it.
disclosure, I must say, John is a good friend of mine, and we have coffee together quite a bit. We won't mention where, because that would be a plug. But have a great day, my audience. I hope you've enjoyed the latest George Ondek Show. And remember, stay on deck with George and Captain Johnny. Great. See you next time. Ships ahoy.
Ships ahoy. That's it. We're over. Nice. Yeah, because I didn't even realize we were. It was good.
Am I pretty good?
It was good, yeah. Can we talk now or no?
Yeah, so you enjoyed boating?
Yeah, I love it. Matter of fact, I just fueled the boat up. It's on it.
Oh, today it's so beautiful.
No, I wasn't, but I was out yesterday.
And the fuel cost.
Well, I think they're going to go down now. I was talking to that woman. She said they're going.
So yeah, isn't the fuel cost tremendous? And
yeah, it's